What's up, guys? So I wanted to return to my, and I think I'm wearing the same shirt as last time, but it's a few days later. I wanted to return to my ethical concerns about AI and everything, and we'll get into that in a moment. But first of all, of course, Patreon.com if you want slash Jordan42 if you want to help me grow the channel. And then also, please be sure to check out my new solo album, Flipside Traveler, which just came out a few days ago. It's a project I've been working on for about 10 years now, and I'm very glad it's finally out there and available. And it's very much something that would be appealing to people who like the kind of dreamy, progressive art rock of Pink Floyd and Peter Gabriel and Marillion and Kate Bush and the Alan Parsons Project and that kind of thing. So really, something I've wanted to do for a long time that really channels classic progressive rock and everything. So please do check it out. Um, and it's something that you'll really want to put on headphones and kick back and just get lost in. Uh, so getting back to this topic, I had said that um, I had posed the question to you all that I've got this independent computer game that I've been developing for the last couple of years, and I had been developing it using uh, AI generated visual assets for the backgrounds and the three dimensional objects and that kind of thing in the game, and then the everything else in the music, the programming, the acting done by human actors and voice actors and all of that, the design, the puzzle structure, the everything about the game and the characters' world building, all of that was done by analog humans, and is being done by analog humans. And so my question was, is it morally acceptable to do this, provided that I am open and honest about what it's about how it works, about what was done. And most people came back agreeing. Most people said, yeah, if you're open and honest about what you've done, then no harm, no foul. And most people agreed with me that the real problem, the real moral problem, are the people who are the fakers, the people who are using AI to. It's one thing to say, you know, treat AI as a tool and say, here's how I have used this tool. Now see what you think of it. It's a whole other thing to say, to hold yourself out, to use it as a fake tool of fakery, and hold yourself out as having skills you don't actually have. And I think wherever you stand on the AI debate, or the nuances of the AI debate, everybody agrees that those people are contemptible. And so, as I come back, I wanted to ask that question inside of that contained context first, because I have a lot more thoughts about this. Because here's the thing, I have watched, being a professional musician, and being a professional musician and someone who works in the contemporary music world, I know a lot of people in a lot of bands, a lot of artists, a lot of producers and everything at very high levels within the industry, especially being in the greater Atlanta area as I am. And I know the dialogue that's being had. And I also know that a lot of people are bowing out. A lot of professionals are bowing out. And because they are disillusioned by what is happening. And here's the thing, I may end up being one of them. Um, as regulars to my channel know, I am tapering off of Lexapro, which is a very powerful SSRI, and it makes me deal with two things. One is uh, the panicked anxiety, mania withdrawal moments that feel like a cross between a seizure and food poisoning happening simultaneously. And then there is the lower side of it, which is the crushing flatline depression that goes beneath anything that just your general low mood, emotional depression can cause you to have. And honestly, it's hard to say which is worst, because if I'm having that, jittery, shaking experience like this, and I feel like the world is crashing in on me, at least I still have the energy to do things. I mean, I can go in, if I have to, the other day I had to go into Target to pick up a couple of things, and it's like, I don't mean to sound disrespectful when I say this, but it is like you go in there kind of looking like Michael J. Fox, and, or Parkinson's patient or something. You can go in shaking and get what you need and go out, and that's fine. But when I went in there the other day, I was so flatline depressed that I have to sit in my car like this, just forcing, just waiting for enough inner momentum to come. Like just getting there in the car was damn near impossible. And so I bring this up because as I have come off of the meds, I'm waiting until I'm off the medication completely, which by the current schedule, I will go off it I will be off it completely in the middle of October. I'm at 2.5 milligrams now, down from 20, so you can see what I've been, how far I've come in 1 year. If I hold to the schedule, I will go off it altogether in mid-October, and then in mid-December, 8 weeks later, I should be fully recalibrated. So I'm waiting to see how I feel going into next year, and if there is renewed vigor in me and that kind of thing. But I don't want to go, I've seen a lot of things in a lot of changes in the industry, and there's a lot of things I have to not, I have to keep quiet, and not just blab about openly. But I've seen a lot of things that have started to happen, and one of those things is, for example, I'm not going to say who she is because she did not, I don't have permission to quote this person directly, but a woman who is a very accomplished metal musician, that I read her statement on social media, private statement on social media, that she's planning to bow out of professional music because she's seen where the music industry is going, and because of AI, where it's going because of AI, and she's just decided to go ahead and bow out. And other people are doing this too. I'm not the only one. And honestly, this has been a real source of depression for me lately, as AI has become, it's just kind of completely consumed us. And to such a degree that in the last few days I haven't even listened to any music. I have not felt like putting any music on at all. Because it breaks my heart to think what it was, and how what it was is never coming back. And that's the thing. There is no alternative to this. It is going in one direction, and only one direction. And I don't mean the band. Like normally when I am cooking, when I'm in the kitchen cooking food for myself, I will put on Puccini, I will put on, John Coltrane, something in this vein. When I am, and nowadays I haven't had the nerve for it. I just drove, 45 minutes in my car coming home, and to complete silence. I have had no desire to hear music. And because things are shutting down in my industry. And to understand what I'm talking about, think about, John Philip Sousa. If you've done any time in marching band, you know who I'm talking about. But John Philip Sousa, the famous composer, that again left an indelible mark on the marching band world. was alive when recorded music started to become a thing, when the phonograph became a thing and recorded music became popular, and he was opposed to it. And that seems like a very strange thing to say, but he was opposed to music being recorded because he was afraid that it would take away the inherently social aspect of music. At his in his day, you either played an instrument by yourself, or you listened to someone else play an instrument, or you got together with a group of people to play music. And he talked about how we would lose the very common, what at the time were very common social engagements, like groups of young people getting together around the piano in a pub to play and sing the latest songs of the day. We don't have that anymore. Not what you're going to say, like we have karaoke or something like that. Not the same. Very different from everybody, the group of people, the social engagement that has to come about because these people have to get together to make music together. And he said we were going to lose that, and we did. We have lost that socialization aspect of it. And at the time, we without realizing it, we were making a very Faustian bargain because all of these new doors seemed to be opening with recorded music. And I'm not decrying recorded music at all as a concept. Thank God we have it. But all of these new doors were opening to us, and we didn't think about the things we were giving up. Opinions like Sousa's just sounded like the attitudes of old cranks and everything. And then, as technology progressed, what came along with my generation was the capacity for file sharing, the ability to just rip people off. And my generation started all of the bullshit excuses about that. Oh, we're not hurting the artists. The artists don't get paid anyway. We're hurting the corporations, man. Yeah, we're just such big, we're just such big badass anarchist punk rockers. We're hurting the corporations, man. Or things like, well, I just like to know that I'm going to like the music before I pay for it. And all of that crap. Thinking of every excuse in the world. And thank God, my dad set me down, and I was getting into Napster, and I'm showing my age there, I know, because I said Napster and not LimeWire, but I was getting into Napster, and my dad set me down and said, look, we're not going to have this in this house. This is theft. You are stealing. You are getting a product for sale that should not be, that you should not have, that you did not pay for. Flat line. That's it. We will not have this. You will not do this in this house. And when I thought about that, I took some time to think about it, and I realized he was right. He was absolutely right. But nevertheless, it put us more, it expedited this process that we were on to where we are now. And you have to understand something about the music industry. If you are an artist in the music industry, you are instantly, vampirically sucked on by so many people who make their living by paying you as little as possible, with zero being optimal. And don't get me wrong, there are people out there who will do legitimate business, and I will only deal with such people. I have no time for I have no time for the parasites. But those people are few and far between compared to the people that are there to leech off of you. And that goes all the way from the record label all the way down to the ground level. All the way down to the ground level, where if you are a young artist coming up, you have probably gotten those gig offers where they say something like, if you bring 25 people to our show, I think I may have mentioned this recently. If I did, to my regulars, bear with me. But, if you bring 25 people to your show, we will pay you $600 or something like that. And so 25 people come out to your show, more than 25 people come out, the house is packed, and you go to get paid, and they say you didn't bring 25 people. I said, yeah, there are 25 people out there. Oh, no, that was 25 people total. You needed to bring 25 people that were specifically there to see you. They needed to tell the bouncer that they were there specifically to see you. They say, well, you never told me that they had to do that. And if you press them on it, what they say is, look, man, if you don't back down, we're going to call every club in town and tell them that you have a personality problem and that they shouldn't book you, and you will never play in this town again. And I could tell you some stories, but I've had that happen to me, and I've suffered the setbacks of being blacklisted and having to wait having to wait a few months before until the scumbag that screwed me over screws over somebody at a higher pay grade than me, and suddenly he's gone and I'm welcome again. I've had that experience, and that goes all the way up to the highest corporate levels. And the art for the longest time, the artist's real cash prize was touring, was getting on the road and touring. And when it became, with file sharing, when record sales stopped, the record industry started getting their money by digging into the artists, into the touring. There's a great movie called Artifact starring Jared Leto. And, well, not just Jared Leto, it's a documentary. It's about his band 30 Seconds to Mars getting sued by their record company. And watch that for a just very sobering look at what it's like out there. And it's now, it's moving faster and faster. And what's happened is, increasingly, the technology has come along to introduce a financial incentive into cutting the cost of cutting out human capital. And I hate to say it, but DJs, and there's amazing DJs out there. I love Aphex Twin, even like some Deadmau5 here and there, but DJs had a real impact on this, because it was a lot easier to hire just one guy with turntables than an entire band. And more the technological incentive has moved towards scaling down the ensemble. And Rick Beato talked recently about how there are no bands anymore. And he's right. Like, before I did this video, I went and looked at the top 200, and there was like 3 bands in the top 40, if even that. That may have been just in the top 100, but I only came across 3 bands as I scrolled down, and one of them was Fleetwood Mac. And that tends to be the thing, is the bands that are on the Billboard charts now are legacy bands that have, whatever song was in John Wick 9000 or something, and now they're going to, they're reaping the benefits from that. But yeah, Fleetwood Mac Rumors was in there, for example. And there's no, and I look now at I look now at things like the festival circuit. Like, a few years ago, the Smashing Pumpkins headlined Wacken. Wacken, if you don't, Wacken, Wacken was, for the longest time, where, like, it was a festival for power metal bands and death metal bands and, European symphonic type bands and that kind of thing. My stuff. That was what you longed, where you longed to play. That was where they went to headline. And you went and played Wacken, and then you came back on the club circuit, and all your club dates were sold out. That's what people in my genre demographics were aiming towards. And now they need the Smashing Pumpkins, one of the biggest legacy bands on the planet, to come in to headline it, because the momentum for bands is dying off. And it is a dying breed. It's a dying art form, and so we are losing again the one of the most beautiful things that there is, which is the interplay between musicians. We're losing that, and it's not coming back. It is not coming back. And there's not going to be a way for it to come back, short of well, no, there's really no way that will was going to say, short of like the downfall of human civilization, where we lose all of our technology and we're at the level of like, you know, Fallout 4 and the Fallout games and that kind of thing. Then when we are technologically set back, this will happen, or then it might start to, ensembles might start to exist again. But if I sound overly cynical or paranoid, stop and think about something. There's a movie coming out called Critters that will be the first ever all AI generated feature film. It's coming out next year, and you can see it's based on a short. And you can go look up Critters with a Z, and you can find it on the OpenAI official webpage or official YouTube page. And they did the original version of it a couple of years ago, and then there's a remastered or redone version, updated version they did now to show off the new technology. And it's not terrible looking, to be perfectly kind, as kind as I can be. It's at about the level of, it's kind of like, how in any anytime there's a major feature film of some variety, they have those there's like knockoff versions that are supposed to sit right next to, their only purpose is to sit right next to the actual thing you're there to buy on the store shelves in hopes that you'll grab that by mistake. Like the Asylum Films things, where they made, the Transformers movie comes out and they put out a movie called Transmorphers, that kind of thing. Literally just tapping into the grandmothers buying something for their kids and not realizing what they're picking up demographic. And it looked at about that level, budget price fake DreamWorks, knockoff DreamWorks is what it looked like. And that's not, even that denotes a level of technical accomplishment, but that's about where it was. There was no, it didn't have any real flair to it, if that makes sense. It looked like, it's like, yeah, that looks like something you'd see in DreamWorks. Yeah, that, there's that looks like something from Monsters Inc. That looks like something from, this, that, and the other, that kind of thing. That looks like something from Despicable Me. And that's about the level it got to. And the idea with it was that it's presented as like a Mutual of Omaha style nature documentary about strange cryptozoological creatures that are being interviewed for the movie. And that's that's the reality of it, of what it is. And here's the thing: when Critters comes out, it will probably make at least 10 or 20 grand at the box office, even if it bombs, quote unquote. Even if just a few people go to see it, it will make a few, not did I say grand or million, I meant to say 10 or 20 million. It'll make like 10 or 20 million just off of the demographic of moms that need to put the kids in a quiet, air-conditioned room and shut them up for a couple of hours demographic. It'll make money off of that. And the reason Hollywood is moving in this direction is because they know that they are a creatively bankrupt, a creatively and spiritually and psychically bankrupt industry that has nothing left to offer except endless remakes and shovelware is the term from video games, just endlessly shoveling the same thing down our gullets over and over again. It's making increasingly less and less money. Profit losing ventures like the last few of these abysmal Disney remakes have taught us that. And so their reality is, how do they deal with this? Well, the answer is to start cutting out the cost of human labor. It won't matter if their schlock only gets 10 or 20 million per thing if it only costs them a few $1,000s to make. And so that's going to be how they try to bail. That's going to be how they try to bail water out of the boat faster than the lakes in the bottom can take it on. And and that's where it's going, and it's going the same in the same direction in the music industry. Spotify is being increasingly open about what they're doing with AI generated music. They're filling up these playlists in what they're doing is they are leaning on the increasing popularity of genres that require no artist personality presence whatsoever, things like lo-fi beats and things like that, which actually really breaks my heart because um, these kind of genres like vaporwave and that kind of thing, and its related, endless subgenres and everything, have been one of the few things that I've been one of the few musical genres I've been really excited about in the last few years. And someone will always ask me for a list of my favorite artists. I can tell you the top three for me are Desert Sand Feels Warm at Night, Windows 96, and Golden Living Room. But with an additional appreciation for more avant-garde things like the Caretaker, Everywhere at the End of Time, and all of that. Um, Everywhere at the End of Time is the Dementia album, right? Not the movie about the people at the with Jamie Lee Curtis and the Asian family. And anyway, I can't keep titles straight anymore. But Everything Everywhere All at Once, that was that. Anyway, uh, but they're popularizing, they're normalizing the presence of AI that way, and bringing all of this, now almost half an hour into my video, bringing all of this back into the realm of, the realm of artistic integrity and ethics and that sort of thing. uh, what's happening with all of these people who are, flooding the market with fake AI generated content, and the people who are acknowledging the use of AI. What they're doing, whether they understand it or not, is they're serving as a carrier matrix for the normalization of AI for the normalization of AI in art and in mass consumed public, art that is consumed in mass by the public, like films and music and that kind of thing. They are normalizing that, and the industry, I think, is very aware of that and aware of what they're doing. And so that gets me into my larger. People say I was overthinking it, and again, I agree that as far as my personal ethics are concerned with this game I'm designing, as far as my personal ethics are concerned, uh, just acknowledging what's happened is enough uh, for me personally. But or acknowledging the use of AI is enough for me personally. But I really am just feeling this fundamental shift in how I feel about art and creativity and my desire to participate in it. And don't get me wrong, I mean, I think there are uses for AI that would be uh, largely morally neutral, like in visual graphics design and everything. For example, when I decided to make this game, the game I'm designing is a point and click adventure, but I had also been messing around with an engine called Cube 2, also known as Cube 2 Sauerbraten, and I've been messing around with that, which is an engine for making FPS, basic, traditional FPS games that visually, in terms of graphics, are somewhere between Quake 1 and Halo 1 in terms of the visual quality. And for that, I thought about using AI to generate textures, background textures, and that kind of thing. And I don't think that I don't think it would compromise artistic integrity to say, here, make me a brick wall texture. That's not artistry, that's utility. Uh, so there's that. That I would not have as much of an issue with if that's where it was stopping. But even still, even at that level, what's happening is it's serving to normalize the presence of AI in the arts in a way that, and what it's doing, I think, is appealing to people's I think what they're doing by, I saw an ad for some kind of writing thing where this really schmucky asshole is walking along and he says, "Hey, I wrote a 50-page novel or 50-chapter novel last night," and he's actually thinking about. He's like, and he debates back and forth a little bit, like he's thinking aloud on his phone as he's talking to you, back and forth about the ethics of the fact that he did this whole thing. All he really did was generate it completely from a prompt with AI, and then he just ends with, "Whatever, I'm calling myself a writer," and he walks off. And they know the moral compromise that they're asking people to make, and they know that this is not going to sit, that this goes against a fundamental sense of right and wrong that people have, but they're actively appealing to deeper, uh, deeper base level human impulses, negative, uh, diabolical, dare I say, demonic impulses within the human, uh, within human nature to get people to do this task, do this dirty work for them, which is to normalize this. And seeing where it's going, and again, seeing so many great people bowing out and just deciding it's not worth it anymore. And yeah, I mean that's the thing. Um, I've done a couple takes of this now, so forgive me if I said this already. But when I started playing guitar professionally, I didn't do it to, I didn't do it to barely scrape by, or with the intention of barely scraping by. I did it with the intention of starting the next Queen, the next Metallica, and the next Queen and the next Metallica don't exist, and they will never exist. We see kind of like, again, the few artists that remain are solo artists, kind of like the few new up and coming artists that remain are solo artists. And it's interesting that, we saw Ozzy, before he died, pass the torch to Youngblood, and I've been listening to Youngblood since then, and he does great stuff. But, uh, you know, he passed the torch to Youngblood. What's interesting is we didn't see Black Sabbath as a band passing the torch to another band that's going to replace them. And that's because there's never going to be another Black Sabbath. We are going to stop having successful bands because it's going to cost too much to make a band successful, even at the independent level. Uh, you know, we're going. What's going to happen is these amazing genres of music that used to dominate the world, like like heavy metal, which heavy metal by its nature, everyone knows I'm a metalhead, and heavy metal by its nature is a genre that is not supposed to be played. It's not supposed to be played like the local Dixieland brass quartet that gets together to play background music at your barbecue, or whatever that you hire them for. No, it's supposed to be played on massive stages through massive sound systems with millions of people pumping their fists in the air. That's the experience. And we are rapidly approaching a place where we are incapable of having that experience. And going back to my original point about Sousa, he was right that as the technology advances, we're going to lose the human element of it more and more and more, even as it seems like new doors are opening up front. And so, bringing it into that larger question, I really do have this deep-seated depression that goes beyond just what I'm experiencing with the Lexapro withdrawal, and goes into a real sense of of almost just anger at myself, of looking at my life and thinking like, how can I restart in my 40s? And what am I supposed to do now? And realizing I could have, realizing now, it's like, God, if I could have just made this compromise 20 years ago, I could be so much happier now and have so much more money, and and have a family and all of these things, rather than uh, putting all that on hold because I have this, you know, carnivorous need to create and make things, and art and all of that, which doesn't even seem that appealing anymore. And I'm thinking about a lot of different things, honestly. Like, I'm thinking about seeing, like I said, I'm going to wait until I'm well through the Lexapro taper to make any decisions, but I'm thinking about trying to get paralegal certification. Paralegal work is something I think I could do well. I don't care to go. I don't care to go back to law school, but I'm gonna have all my credit card debt paid off by Q1 of 2026. So I don't care to introduce any new debt. But paralegal certification might not cost that much. Or another thing, as funny as it sounds, like lighthouse keeper. I really love the idea of and not. I don't mean like. I don't mean like Willem Dafoe and Vampire Boy, Robert Pattinson. I don't mean like that in that movie that they did. I mean, like, there's an episode of one of my favorite shows is Joe Pera Talks with You, and there's an episode where Joe and Sarah have there's this kind of dream sequence of them 100 years prior, if they lived 100 years prior and were maintaining a lighthouse together. Like, that just seems so pleasant and so nice. And yeah, maintaining a lighthouse or something like that just seems so pleasant. But it's scary, man. It's scary because I don't know what my life is like without creativity, without artistry. And I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, don't give it up. Just do it for yourself. I can't, man. I couldn't do that because it's too painful to think about what it was and what it's taken away from us, and what's being taken away from us. And honestly, you know, there would always be this thing in me that's thinking, maybe this next creation, this will be the thing, this will be my Edgar Allan Poe the Raven, this thing that really catches on like wildfire and really makes it for me, and that doesn't exist anymore. The only thing that's going to exist going forward is going to be, things that the scum-sucking weasels among us, the people like that guy in that advertisement that go, whatever, I'm calling myself an author. Those people who are shameless enough to go around buying recognition for themselves. These are the same people that would hire 100 prostitutes and tell you that and brag about sleeping with 100 women. Those kind of people. They will go around buying little pockets of recognition for themselves, and that's all it's going to be. Some of those people will occasionally fund what they're essentially doing is funding the creation of an AI generated art thing that might catch on, and they might get a little pat on the head for that. And that's just another reality. Going back to music, that's another reality of how the industry works at this point. Because I work in the Atlanta music scene, and the Atlanta music scene is overrun with rap. As we know, it's just constantly full of rap, and I'm not putting rap down as a genre. There's great stuff out there, obviously. But what's happened, the industry, the way people are making their money now, it's the most ugly, heinous thing possible. But it's kind of like it's kind of like these guys try to launch their rap careers. and what they're buying is almost like a Rockstar Fantasy Camp weekend package or something. They're buying this experience of going, when they hire a producer and all of this, they're buying this experience of getting to go cut their track and everything, and feel like they're participating in this wildly saturated market that's full of, more churned out, just one churned out track after another, and none of them are really breaking through. They're just buying these little experiences for themselves. And I can't, it's difficult for me to deal with how shameless that's gotten. That I know that these, I'm talking now, I'm talking about things I've witnessed with my own two eyes. I know these producers know that know that they are just mooching off of people's people's naivete and their desire to purchase recognition for themselves. I know that they know that this is the business model. They know that there's not a more sustainable financial undercurrent to it other than that. It's just taking advantage of people. And after a point, it's like, what am I holding on to? I've lived life on the outside of human existence my entire life, and I'm just like, is it too late for me to buy in? Is it, and in my early 40s, is it too late for me to find real fulfillment and happiness in life? And because it's crippling, man. It is crippling. I had to play the Master of Puppets riff as part of a demonstration of something earlier this week. The main verse riff from Master of Puppets, that riff. I had to demonstrate that for somebody earlier this week, and I just felt like the biggest loser on the planet. Like, God, just feeling like someone, just really feeling like it's funny. I have so many friends from high school that are like, "Oh man, you're a pro guitarist. That's so cool. I wish I was doing that. I'm stuck at this stupid day job, man." And now what I for a long time that sustained me. That like compassionate jealousy that they had for what I was doing sustained me. Now, what I feel like is the ultimate example of the guy that peaked in high school. And I just cannot describe to you the emptiness of it. And that's where, if you've seen the Radiohead video for Paranoid Android, the one that's drawn with the very simple, childlike animations and everything, there's the scene where there's a room full of politicians that are debating about something, and it's implied that this one politician is finally is trying to take some noble stand against everybody else, and finally he's just left sitting by himself at the table crying and waving his little flag like, I give up, I'm on board too. And as I've been making this game, I've been, for the first 2 years, I was having so much fun off in my own little world doing this, and now I step up and I'm like, I feel so stupid. Like the guy that's just like, okay, fine. I'll if it means getting a little bit of recognition for myself, I'll give you something that allows you to further your goals of screwing over the entire creative arm of the human race once and for all. That's where I'm at.